Ihor Kozak is my guest. He's a Canadian-Ukrainian military expert, the vice president of the League of Ukrainian Canadians. He was personally involved in the 2014 war in Crimea in Ukraine when the Russians illegally annexed that region. And it's good to see you, and thank you for taking the time, Ihor, to come on the program with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell me what you think is going on right now in your country? We're trying to get a sense of what you think the Russians might be doing, and it's hard. It's fog of war, a lot of misinformation coming from the Russian side. What do you think?
Well, frankly, what's going on, it's unprecedented. You know, it's surreal, even for somebody like me who have been to many hotspots around the world and who has been a dozen times to the front lines of eastern Ukraine since 2014. Effectively, what you're having is a full-fledged war attacked indiscriminately on civilian and military targets by the Russian Federation, which is a member of G20 and every other international respectable body here. And they're doing so for no reason except that they want to, as President Putin once said, rebuild the Soviet Empire, Soviet Union. And they're doing this in contravention to the Geneva Convention and so many other international rules and regulation, and frankly to common sense, because the casualties are going to be horrendous here. And frankly, the first time we're seeing this type of crisis has been since 1945, when the Nazi Germany was defeated. This is the first time since 1945 we have the full-fledged war in Europe and that type of fighting going on in Ukraine right now. As I said, I am shocked, I am surprised. Even for me, I never thought that Vladimir Putin, the madman, and his gang of criminals in the Kremlin would push that far, but here we are.
Yeah, and I've heard people in Kyiv talk about how, the last time the capital went through this was when the Nazis attacked in 1941, and that gives you a sense of how unprecedented this actually is, Ihor. As somebody who helped train the Ukrainian military, I want to ask you about your take on Ukraine's ability to stop the Russian advance. We keep hearing about how in the last 8 years, since that war in Crimea that you were a part of, the Ukrainian military has become much, much more sophisticated, much better on the ground. And of course, they have a lot more ammunition and military equipment that has been supplied not only within Ukraine itself, but of course by NATO countries.
Look, it's everything you said is true. It's correct. Russia, no doubt, it has a much stronger, much larger military. The population of Russia, to start with, is 144 million. The population of Ukraine is only around 44 million. So over 3 times, here a difference. Also, Russia is a militaristic state. It is a dictatorship. It has inherited very powerful military-industrial complex and military capabilities after the collapse of the Soviet Union, and has been building that capacity over the past 30 years, also participating in various conflicts around the world, in Syria, for example, or in Chechnya, Georgia, and many other places. Ukraine is a peaceful country, and therefore, obviously, the forces that it has, the military capabilities, are less what Russia has. Having said that, you are correct in noting that in comparison to 2014, Ukrainian capabilities, military, is truly a day and night. In 2014, there were only approximately, more or less, 3,000 battle-ready troops, and it was done on purpose by the previous regime of pro-Russian President Yanukovych to essentially destroy Ukrainian military. And when the war started, you had Ukrainian activists, youth, in running shoes, going from the Maidan during the Revolution of Dignity to the Eastern Front, using obsolete weapons, sometimes hunting rifles, and whatever means they had to stop Russian aggressions. Right now, Ukraine has one of the strongest and most capable military capabilities in Europe. It's to a large extent thanks to the support from the Western partners. All the assistance has been received, and also all the training. Canada, for example, my friends from the Canadian military, whom I went to Royal Military College, whom I served in the Canadian Armed Forces before my retirement, they've been to Ukraine and they trained over 30,000 Ukrainian troops to NATO standards. Same with United Kingdom, United States, Poland, and other allies. The most important aspect, I think, here, notwithstanding, the differences, in capability between Ukraine and Russia, is that Ukrainians troops, esprit de corps, morale is so much higher because they are defending their own country, they're defending their families, homeland, freedom, while Russians are aggressors. And you already see this examples. For instance, and Ukrainians captured a number of Russian troops. Many of them surrendered by themselves. And when you see their interviews on Ukrainian television, many of them are confused, especially conscripts, why they're in Ukraine. They thought they were on a training exercise. They're confused, they're apologizing, they do not want to fight. Clearly, Russian using many of their paid mercenaries and their special forces, which are motivated to fight, but the conscript are not. So once again, Ukrainian military is very strong. It's not as well equipped, not as large as Russia, but it's putting a hell of a resistance, much bigger than President Putin or anybody else would imagine. And we're seeing, therefore, such a high casualties, in Russia, over 3,000 dead, over 100 tanks burned, over 600 military vehicles destroyed, even, 5 or 6 state-of-the-art jet fighters been destroyed in over city of Kyiv by one Ukrainian fighter pilot. So the results are certainly not what Russia expected, and hopefully that will be enough to stop Russian aggression soon.
Ihor, I appreciate you taking the time to come on the program, and we'd like to get you back on the show if we can in the days ahead to talk more about the crisis.